In this video, we're going to look at why the unemployment rate may not be the best metric to let us know how well the economy is doing. Let's dive in. So when I ask my macroeconomics students what are some of the best metrics to determine whether the economy is doing well or bad, the unemployment rate often arises. And although it serves its purpose, it's not a perfect metric. So why is that the case? Well, the unemployment rate measures the amount of people unemployed over the amount of people in the labor force. The amount of people in the labor force are either employed or unemployed. One thing that's important to note here is when we talk about unemployed, we're looking at people that are actively searching for work. So if someone decides to go back to school, they're not actively searching for work. If this person leaves the country, they're not actively searching for work. This person goes on welfare, they're not actively searching for work. So if you have a situation where you're in a recession, there's low jobs, but people get discouraged or simply see this recession coming, and instead of accepting to be unemployed for a certain amount of time, they decide, I'm just going to go back to school. It's a good time for me to go back to school. You can have a situation where a lot of people lose their jobs, but the unemployment rate hasn't fallen. Or you're going to have some people lose their jobs, but more people actually leave the labor force. More unemployed people leave the labor force because they're discouraged. And at the end of the day, that unemployment rate actually goes lower than it was, even though there's a lot of people that lost their jobs. You should be able to represent this mathematically. A typical question I have on exams is two different politicians say two things that seem contradicting. Like one says during this past year, 100,000 jobs were lost, and the other person says during this last year, the unemployment rate has fallen. And you have one politician that's in power, one that wants to be in power. And in that situation, you would think that one of the two has to be lying. And although politicians lie, in this specific story, both can be telling the truth. So how can that be that you can have people losing their jobs while unemployment rate is falling? Is because there's a lot of people that may become discouraged and leave the labor force. And as soon as those people leave the labor force, if you just look at the effect of one-on-one, so let's say you had 10 people unemployed and 90 people employed, so you'd have 10 as the numerator. Unemployed over labor force is 10 plus 90, that's 100, so 10% unemployed. And then after one of these unemployed people leaves the labor force, you have now 9 out of the 10 remaining. And at the denominator, you have 9 unemployed and 90 employed. So now you have 9 over 99, close to 9%. So because of that person leaving the labor force, here I haven't talked about jobs being lost, but just that one effect has led to a drop in the unemployment rate. And a similar drop to if that person would have become hired, because in that case, it would have been 9 over 100 versus 9 over 99. So the impact of discouraged workers leaving the labor force has to be taken into account. And to take that into account, you could look at other metrics like the labor force participation rate, which looks at how many people are participating in the labor force over that working age population. And at the end of the day, that gives you a better picture. So if you want to really know how the economy is doing, GDP was mentioned in another video. Unemployment rate is important, but also the amount of people that are actually employed. So looking at job numbers also makes sense. So hopefully through these videos, you can understand the limitations, the advantages and disadvantages of each, but hopefully by understanding how all of them work and understanding their limitations, you could understand better how the economy is doing by looking at all of these metrics that will be given to you in the news. Have a nice day. Catch you guys on the next one. If you found this video interesting, please consider subscribing or joining my class where I guide you to apply and expand on the information found in these videos to real life examples. Have a good day.